Hello, Penn Staters, and welcome to the Football Letter Podcast. This week, we welcome Hunter Kelly, letterman offensive lineman. Hunter wore number 68 with the Nittany Lions. Hunter is a 2020 Penn State grad, and in true success with honor fashion, he was a two-time academic All-Big Ten selection, and he also earned Dean's List honors at Penn State. After graduating, Hunter transferred to Charlotte, where he was a two-year starter for the 49ers. He earned honorable mention all-conference. And also this season, most recently, Hunter spent the season in the Indoor Football League with the Massachusetts Pirates, making the playoffs. That league is a lot of fun to watch and follow. We're going to ask Hunter about his time with Penn State, where he was part of the Big Ten championship team, also the Fiesta Bowl and Cotton Bowl championship teams. Also, we'll ask him about his time following Penn State and maybe what the future holds for Hunter Kelly. Hunter, good morning, sir. We're thrilled that you're joining the podcast, and how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you played high school football in Pennsylvania. Wondering if you could walk us through, the recruiting process when you started to become an upperclassman and how Penn State ended up being the school for you.
Yeah, so I was a 3-year starter at Neshaminy High School down in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Actually, the same school that James Franklin went to. So, going to Neshaminy, I grew up around football. My dad was a coach there. My mom teaches in the district. So uh, it was always something I've been around. And then, going and playing for Neshaminy was a big deal in my family. Was a 3-year starter. Around junior years when recruiting started picking up, didn't have many big time Division I offers. It was mainly a lot of D2 schools, some FCS schools. But I remember my junior year, we were getting ready to play a team. I think it was like week 7 or 8 of the season, and it was It was that Friday during school, and I got called down to our coach's office uh, during class. I didn't know what was going on, and when I walked in, it was James Franklin and at the time the RD line coach Sean Spencer were both there visiting the school, and they called me down, talked to me for a little bit. So after that, I was on cloud nine because I grew up watching Penn State, loving Penn State football. So the fact they came down to visit me was great. Um, Skip forward to sometime after that season. Sean Spencer actually came down and visited me again at school, and they offered me the preferred walk-on spot. And so that was something that I had to consider going through. Even though I had some D2 offers, some FCS looks, I thought, grew up loving Penn State, so to have this opportunity, even though it was a walk-on position, to go and not only play football with Penn State, but to get the education that Penn State has. Couldn't pass it up. So that's why ultimately I came and became a preferred walk on at Penn State, and it was it's all history from there.
Yeah, always enjoy hearing Sean Spencer's name, Coach Chaos, getting a shout out from Hunter Kelly on the Football Letter podcast. Uh, you developed quite a bit as a player and a person at Penn State, eventually and ultimately earning a scholarship at Penn State. In what ways did you grow as a player and then as a person during your college days at Penn State?
Yeah, I think like everyone, the college adjustment's hard. It's even harder when you have to worry about basically a full time job in football as well as a full time job in school. So, the adjustment wasn't easy. I think, like everyone, learning time management first and foremost was probably the biggest thing. Um, just in regards to everything we had to do between practice and film and meetings, and then also having study hall at night and everything like that. So that was a big adjustment, number one. And then obviously number two was kind of living on my own. But I think doing that really kind of helped me develop, like you said, as a person, first and foremost, I think, because you kind of start gaining your identity of who you really are, not only as a football player, which you kind of develop on the field, in the weight room, in the meeting room, but then, in the classroom and social life and what you're doing outside of football. And you really start developing. So I thought, the way Penn State works and all the people we had to help with the team, with the players. Kind of really everyone had a hand in how guys developed on and off the field. But it was big time for me. I think it helped me develop as just a well-rounded person, both in school and on the field. So it was a long process, and obviously, like you hinted towards, earning a scholarship was definitely a big part of that, and we can dive into that also if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a significant moment, a significant event for you. When James Franklin told the team that you were in scholarship, I believe you were at practice. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, that's my dad and my grandfather were there. So it was a spring practice. We were, I think it was like a Saturday morning practice. So I'll be honest, it was later in spring ball. I was tired. We were all kind of tired at that point. But initially, Coach Franklin was calling me out to go and do a one-on-one, which at that time I'm older. I don't really do that anymore at that level, just because usually you're calling out younger kids to do it and stuff. So I was a little confused, didn't know what was going on, and yeah, you saw the announcement there. My dad and grandfather just so happened to be up to visit practice, to watch practice. So it was really luckily that they were there. Unfortunately, my mom stayed home that day, but as you can see at the end there, I FaceTimed her. She was in tears. Whole family was in tears. It's something that you see happen. I've obviously seen these scholarship videos before, and it's not something that I really could have imagined happening, but it's something that I continued to work for. And I knew one day, no matter how much things got tough or whatever, um, the hard work that I put in and day out would eventually pay off. And it just so happened a random Saturday in the spring, and it did. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great to see that moment. Congratulations to you, Hunter. And I also really want to give a shout out to Penn State's media, to the football team's media staff. Like sharing those moments, I think that makes such a great connection with alumni, with fans. You got your helmet off, you can see the emotion, and so I just wanted to give a little shout out to you personally, Hunter, and also to the football team for sharing that moment. In the intro, we mentioned how during your time at Penn State, Big Ten champion, went to two big time bowl games, winning both the Cotton Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl. Given what motivated you to attend Penn State, to have a well rounded college experience, focus on academics, what stood out to you most about your time at Penn State? And it sounds like you maximized the time that you had, that when you did graduate, when you did transfer, you felt, like you had a fulfilling college experience. But I don't want to speak for you if it sounds like that's the case.
Yeah, no, it definitely was the case. Just everything. I mean, when you play football, obviously you have a lot of built-in kind of experiences, right? But it was really off the field in terms of some of the stuff we did academically. So I graduated with a degree in journalism, and my last semester, unfortunately, was COVID came around, but I was in Center County Report, which was fantastic program. Is a great way to cap off my time at Penn State. Really got to put the journalism skills to use and actually do live broadcasts. And I got to anchor and report. That is a big memory for me that sticks out, because it really helped me fully realize that's what I really enjoyed doing off the field, was that kind of reporting and stuff. And then when COVID rolled around, I was doing newscasts and reporting from home, and shooting stuff myself with my cell phone. So those little moments, were really awesome. But back on the field, you know, I mean, my freshman year started off, with a bang. Really, we go in and we beat Ohio State at home. The blocked field goal was a big part of that, and that kind of sprung us forward to the Big Ten championship. Won the Big Ten championship. Unfortunately, lost the Rose Bowl, but got a great experience going to the Rose Bowl. That's all in my first year. So it's like, how do you top that? But then we continued to go to even bigger, better bowl games. And the Fiesta Bowl was fantastic. We had the Citrus Bowl we didn't win, but that was a great experience. And the Cotton Bowl, and it's just it's really, really cool. It's just so many good experiences. Um, but the little ones off the field are really what made it special.
Yeah, Hunter mentioned the Center County Report. That is part of the Donald P. Belisario College of Communications here at Penn State, the college that Hunter graduated from. That college has gives so many amazing opportunities for students, and so obviously, Hunter took advantage of that. The group of students just went over to New Zealand for the Women's World Cup, and so thanks for sharing that off the field experience, Hunter. It was glad to hear that was meaningful for you. So I'd mentioned in the intro, Indoor Football League, Massachusetts Pirates. I was looking over the setup for that. I was going to ask you, how does that league kind of distinguish itself from college football? That's too big of a question. There's a lot of ways. I just wanted to ask you, how did playing at Penn State and also playing at Charlotte, if you wanted to bring that into the conversation, how did that help prepare you for the Indoor Football League and just playing professional football in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, there's not much that can prepare you for playing in the indoor football league. I think it's really I mean, it's football, so football's football, but it's definitely a different experience. I think just in general, my years of playing Penn State, Charlotte, really all kind of led me to having different experiences, learning different ways to play the game technically and physically, from a physical aspect, a mental aspect. And all of that kind of came down to playing, starting to play professional football. And indoors is, like you said, it's fast paced, it's different. There's only three offensive linemen on the field, so it's really different, especially when you're a center and you have a head up nose right over top of you, and it's just fast. It's fast paced. It's fun, and I think the biggest thing with indoor football, um, since it's such close quarters, you're in an arena. You get to interact with the fans a lot, which I love. I interacted with the fans at Penn State a lot. Still know a lot of them today. Still keep in contact with a lot of them today, and just kind of having that interaction with fans is important to me, because I remember being a kid and looking up to these players who I didn't really know, their names, but I watched them play, and it's really what got me into playing where I'm at now. So being able to interact with fans was probably the biggest thing that I loved about being in the indoor football league. It's a lot different, like I said, than regular outdoor football, but you can't go wrong with that opportunity at all.
Vince, our producer's throwing up some photos of Hunter on screen of his days at Penn State. You had mentioned interacting with fans, and you also mentioned the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Cotton Bowl. Penn Staters traveled to all of those games. As you know, they travel everywhere. And you grew up in Pennsylvania. You said you had a passion for Penn State football. What's the meaning? What's the significance for you as a player at Penn State, knowing that when you go out to Pasadena, to Dallas, to Phoenix, that you're going to have the Penn State alumni base, the Penn State fan base there supporting you?
It's incredible. I mean, the Penn State alumni really, it's unlike anything you've really ever seen before, unless you're part of Penn State, and obviously we're used to this. But it's like, you have people from other teams coming up to you like, man, like the amount of fans you have that travel, that you see around not only around the country but around the world, and the amount of alumni around the world, it's incredible. So having that support no matter where you go, making it like a home game no matter where you go, it's special, man. It's really special, and it's not something you get just anywhere. I always knew coming into Penn State that was their trademark, and that was kind of what they did, but you don't really know until you experience it. So going to, Pasadena and going down to Dallas, or going to Orlando or Scottsdale, Arizona, it's like they're all out there and they all travel, whether they live out there, they travel there. It's incredible, man. And it's something, like I said, you don't see anywhere else really.
So Penn Staters also travel on Saturday afternoons to Beaver Stadium in the fall. You know what it's like to play at Beaver Stadium, walk through that tunnel, night game, whiteout. What is it like playing at Beaver Stadium? What made that special for you?
Yeah, it's incredible. I remember the first time coming out. It wasn't even a special game. I actually can't even remember who we played. It was the first game of the season my freshman year. We were playing a smaller school, but still walking, running out of that tunnel, and seeing it because you walk through and then it kind of all opens up, right? And you see all the fans, even pregame when you come out for warmups, and the amount of people that are already in the stadium is incredible. And when you come out and they play Zombie Nation and the whole place is going nuts, it's crazy. And then somehow when you come out to the whiteout, it goes up about 10 levels, and you thought it was crazy on a regular game. The whiteout's unbelievable. You're coming out of the locker room and you actually feel the ground shaking. Like it's an incredible atmosphere. Nobody, I don't care what anybody says, there's no other school in the country that does it, not even close. And it's man, it's special. The people, all 100, sometimes we get 110,000. All 110,000 are loud, and it's special to be out there. It really is.
We are speaking with Hunter Kelly. You're listening to the Football Letter podcast. Really appreciate Hunter's time this morning. Just have a couple more questions for you, Hunter. A couple quick hit questions for you. So you're back in Pennsylvania now. How often do you get back to campus? And when you do get back, what are one or two things that you really try to do?
Yeah, so I haven't gotten back too much. I got back last year for the whiteout. I'm hoping to get up there sometime this year, possibly for the whiteout again. Um, I love going obviously to the downtown area. Just can't go wrong with really any of the places. I'm a offensive lineman, so I love food. I love the creamery. Obviously, some people think it's overhyped. I'll never think that ever. It's great. There is a spot down there that I think it's like I don't know if it's like Korean chicken or something like that. It's called the Coop. I went there a lot when I was there, and it's fantastic. So just all those little places. Obviously, love going to the tailgates now that I'm on this end of it, if I can get there. Um, but it's just awesome being there for game days and game day weekends. It's special.
Yeah, if you're a Big Ten champion and you're walking through the tailgate lots, you should just have an open invite to stop by for a sandwich, for a cold drink, if that's your thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you deserve to have to enjoy yourself in the tailgating lots. All right, hey Hunter, we're gonna get you out on this one, a fun one. It can also be, a meaningful question here. So you know what it takes to win Big Ten championship. We've talked about the other big time bowl games that you travel to and won. If you were going to address this year's team, if James Franklin invited you to practice and said, "Hey Hunter, do you mind saying something to the guys?" What would be your advice to them? Preparing not just for the first couple of games, but really, how to prepare yourself for a complete season in the Big Ten.
Well, what I would say, and I'm sure what they're already preaching to them, is take it one day at a time. I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, it goes fast. It really goes fast. It's over before you know it. So take it one day at a time. Try to win one day at a time, one rep at a time, and just try to find a way to get 1% better every day. I'm sure they're doing that. I'm sure that's not something they haven't heard. But truthfully, that's the way I live my life. And I learned that from being at Penn State. And so take it one day at a time and try to win one day at a time, one game at a time. And from the looks of it, they have a very talented team this year. And they finished on a high note last season. I'm excited to see what they do this season. But just take it one day at a time, and they'll be happy to see where they end up.
Spoken like a true Big Ten champion, Hunter Kelly. We wish you all the best in the future, and thanks for stopping by the Football Letter podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, Penn Staters, and welcome to the Football Letter Podcast. This week, we welcome Hunter Davey, superstar volunteer leader. Hunter has strong roots with the Alumni Association. He served as a Lion Ambassador while in school at Penn State, graduating as a Nittany Lion in 2019 from the College of Engineering, also graduating from the Schreier's Honors College. And after graduating, he kept his leadership position intact with the Alumni Association, becoming a Young Alumni Ambassador. That's a program that we have here at the Alumni Association. It provides young alumni opportunities to connect with fellow young alumni. There's a curriculum focused on professional and personal development. Hunter was involved with that. Currently, he is leading our Baltimore chapter as the chapter president. Professionally, he's an account manager of food and beverage for Ecolab. Hunter, that was a long intro because you are involved with a lot of stuff. You were a big-time volunteer leader for the Alumni Association for a long time, continuing in that role. We're thrilled that you're joining us on the Football Letter Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, John. Doing well. Thanks so much for the intro. I haven't had someone run through my accolades in a while, but that sounds pretty much all about right. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course. That's what we're here for. We need to promote and pump up our alumni, and so we're looking forward to the conversation. Let's start at the beginning. Growing up, what made Penn State the school for you?
So, this is the why Penn State moment. During my time as a Lion Ambassador, this was pretty much at the end of every tour. So let's see if I can brush the dust off and break this one out. So grew up in central New Jersey, Monmouth County, for all my Jersey people out there. And I went to a small high school, graduated with 80 kids. We had no sports teams. It was a science-based school, a STEM school, and our mascot was literally DNA. That being said, I was also a 3-season athlete at my home high school, and one of my favorite activities there was going back for football games, going back for sports. And in a university, I really wanted something with both, right? Something where I could go do my nerdy stuff. I could go work in a research lab like I did for a few years at Penn State, but also go into a stadium with 107,000 of my best friends and really have that full purview of what I could go do in a university. So that's what brought Penn State for me.
Becoming a Lion Ambassador, serving in that role, as many folks know, and just in case you don't, when you see students walking backwards on campus, those are the Lion Ambassadors giving the campus tours. How did being a Lion Ambassador shape your college experience?
Yeah, I would say of all the activities that I did, scholastic, extracurricular, that was probably number one for me. And that brought me, I think, two main things. The first was a sense of community. There's plenty of places people find community on campus, whether it's Thon, whether it's your college or major. But for me, this was probably the largest sense of community that I found. You walk in, immediately you're brought into a group, you get a buddy, you're part of all these different kind of subgroups within the organization, and it makes you feel like you belong. So for me, that was number one. I'd found that in a couple other places. I've been on some Thon committees. The Honors College is pretty tight-knit. But I would say this was one where I felt immediately part of something and really made Penn State go from this big, huge place to some place I could call home. Like that was my little group. So first, definitely community. And then the next one I would say leadership. That one was definitely a big aspect. I have some leadership positions prior, right, in high school, been on student government, Thon, had some roles there. But this was, and I became a committee director. This was about 3 months after joining the organization. And I'm going to level with you. I was not ready. I was not ready at all. I did not have a lot of the experience. I didn't have quite the full knowledge of Penn State as I do now. So I went in, felt a little bit like I was over my head, right? But, couple months in role, year in role, really felt, kind of hit my groove. In the fall, we had recruitment, which was a ton of fun, but I got to work with 14 different committee members, most of them older than me. So with more experience than me and folks who had just welcomed me into the organization. So that was a challenge, right? These are motivated people. These are, a lot of these folks, smart individuals or, leading leaders. And that really broke me out. I think that really helped me develop a lot of that leadership. And then thirdly, I didn't mention this before, but love of Penn State. That organization, you live, breathe, eat, sleep Penn State. You learn the facts, you learn the textbook, and actually, it was really a great experience to learn about the university, gain an appreciation, not just over 4 years or 8 years or when my parents went or anything like that. from the very beginning, and even before Penn State as we know it, back when it was Farmers High School, Pennsylvania. So I'd say those three aspects really, really helped me find my place at Penn State. Leadership skills, as well as love and appreciation for the university.
As a line ambassador leading the campus tours, did you have a favorite Penn State trivia nugget that you would share with folks of something about the university that they might not find in a lot of other places?
Interesting question. So there's a ton of facts and things that I'm trying to recall now. Let's see. Did I have a favorite fact? I would say that that Old Main was actually not the original Old Main, or in fact, that was the main building on campus. That is where the students slept. That's where classes were held. So everything kind of revolved around Old Main. 1929, there was a fire and actually burned the whole building down. And then in 1930, it was built right back up. So this building that's kind of the centerpiece of our campus used to be kind of all of it, right, back in Farmers High School days, and burned down and came back up. And that's the building that we see today.
Hunter, taking us back way old school to the beginning of Penn State. We love it. Current day Penn State, you are leading our Baltimore chapter as the chapter president. What are you doing in Baltimore, and how are you connecting alumni year round?
Yeah, so Baltimore's doing a lot. And very excited. We've got an awesome group with us, 8 board members up from 4 just a few years ago. So we are growing. A couple of, I'll just mention our kind of keynote events here. So obviously football, which I'm sure we'll talk more about later, but we do game watches for every one of the football games, home and away. We've got 2 different locations, one closer to kind of our center, which is in Federal Hill, just south of the harbor in Baltimore, for those that are familiar. And the other one is in Canton, and that's called Smaltimore. So if anybody out there listening is ever in Baltimore for a football game, that is where we'll be. We've got raffles, we've got merch, T-shirts, new bucket hats have dropped actually this past year. So if any of you are interested in checking it out, that's Nobles in Federal Hill and Smaltimore in the Canton neighborhood of Penn State. Of Baltimore. So that's as far as football goes. As far as our game watches go, a couple other events we always do. This started last year. We do an Orioles game. So we've already sold, I believe it's 145 tickets. All Penn Staters coming to an Orioles game. This is going to be towards the end of August. We do a football game when Penn State comes to play at Maryland. We get a couple of buses through an organization called Be More Around Town. Last year, I think we had 150 plus people attend this event. Big old tailgate, all you can eat, all you can drink. And a ticket package as well. So we all sit together in the stadium. So that's as far as that's a lot of our sports as far as that goes. We do volunteer events every single month. The second Saturday of every month, we volunteer with an organization called Volunteering Untapped. They've got different events for us to go participate in. We've done community cleanups. We have done garden plantings. We've done, the list goes on and on. So that's the second Saturday every month. And then kind of in the off season, as we call it, which is the kind of spring, summer, not as much going on. We just started this last year, but it is our Charm City Gala. So last year was the kickoff of that Charm City Gala. We had 75 attendees. We raised over $3,000 for Thon. Nice dinner, we had DJ, and it was a way to connect Penn Staters that we had not ventured into before. A lot of the times in the city, we'll get our young folks that can walk there from this neighborhood or that neighborhood. And this was kind of a smattering, right? This was some folks that we hadn't seen as much of, and really, really happy to welcome these folks into our organization and excited to continue the trend in the coming years. We actually we're working on a venue. We should have a date by next week of our Charm City Thon Gala 2024. So very excited about all that.
Well, thank you for sharing, Hunter. And that's a great example of the Baltimore chapter, that our alumni chapters, yes, they have football watch parties. They also have community service events. There's Thon fundraisers. And so no matter what your affinity is towards Penn State, there's something about that will connect you to our alumni chapters. If you go to our website, alumni.psu.edu/groups, it's a full catalog. We've got almost 300 affiliate groups, more than 125 chapters. And so even if you're not living near Baltimore, there's a local alumni chapter for you, and we encourage you to get involved. Just like Hunter's saying, there's a lot of different things going on. So for someone like you, Hunter, deep passion for Penn State, when you're seeing Penn Staters connecting with one another, what's that like for you, knowing, that they're connecting with each other through different experiences and are staying connected, not just to the university, but to their fellow alumni?
To me, that's what it's all about, right? Penn State, awesome school, great academics. There are other schools with great academics, right? Penn State is not the only school with, hundreds of majors and awesome opportunities. But where I think Penn State really provides its value, or I'll say maybe even in comparison to other schools, is the network, right? Just like when I went into Penn State and I became a Lion Ambassador, right? I was immediately met with this network of motivated people who cared about me. That's what we hope to achieve in the Baltimore chapter, right? New folks who come into Baltimore, me, myself, when I moved to Baltimore, I knew one person. I knew a single person. Great guy, right? But it's not quite a community. I joined the Baltimore chapter immediately. Within the first month, I was introduced to 25, 30, 40 people. We started a kickball team, right? We went to game watches together, and slowly but surely, we built this community of people who are motivated, who care about each other, who want to bring each other up, network professionally, personally, and that's really what we're trying to provide. So for me to see at our game watches and at our tailgates and our events and our volunteer, right, seeing people that either I don't know or folks that don't know each other, seeing them connect and make that connection, that's what it's all about.
I mean, I have to say, Hunter, you're exhibiting a level of maturity that isn't often found in recent graduates. You talk about the power of the alumni network. A lot of folks, they'll get out of college for 5, 10, maybe 15 years, and then they'll start to get involved and really understand kind of everything that's available. You knew that from the jump. Is there something that you can attribute to how you were so aware of that sense of community? Was that something that you brought with you to Penn State, or was maybe that something that you also cultivated a little bit while a student here?
Yeah, great question, John. I think it's a combination of both. I think folks, when they leave Penn State, they think, oh, alumni associations, maybe that's for older folks, or in 10 years, or, I'll finally answer those letters that Penn State send me about donating, right? And a lot of folks don't necessarily think that this is something that they can continue right out of school. So for me, I was intimately involved with the Alumni Association during my time. I actually ran the university-wide senior send-off my senior year through Lion Ambassadors. So I had the opportunity to run that event and actually work with current Alumni Association chapter leaders and help them set up their tables for that event. So perhaps I had more insight than most. So that's one, right? I knew about it. A lot of folks don't know about it or necessarily think about it. So I had some intimate knowledge there. And number two, kind of necessary, right? I didn't know anybody. For me, it was, okay, I can either do, volunteer with the Alumni Association, or I guess figure it out myself. So for me, I think, as my mom would say, necessity is the mother of invention, right? If you need to go do something, if it's necessary, you deem it necessary, you're going to go do it. So I think a combination of, I knew this was an option. A lot of folks don't know it's an option or think of it, and I needed it. Right. It was important to me in my life to go make connections and build that network. And I knew this would be a surefire way to go and do it.
Well, staying on that point, Hunter, if there's an alumna out there, they want to get involved. They're not sure how, maybe they're not sure what a good first step would be. What's your advice to them about, maybe just a good way to get started?
So I will say, if you are interested in getting involved, there are probably several 100,000 alumni and volunteers that will that'll give you a hug, that'll give you a high five and say, yes, this is what we've been looking for. This is what we've been waiting for. We'd love for you to get involved. So there's different ways to do it, right? And every chapter is set up differently. I'll speak to Penn State Baltimore. We have a website, psubaltimore.org. There is a link on there. If you look in the title, right, it'll be a click down. It'll say join our team, it'll say get involved. And then there's a couple of tabs there. One is join our team. You can fill out a form, and it'll send an email to myself, send an email to the vice president, send an email to the treasurer, et cetera, and someone will reach out within 48 hours and welcome you to the team, look at your interests, schedule a meeting to go set something up. I know we've made this, at least in Baltimore, try to be as easy as possible, right? Try to make this easy, try to make this simple so it's not intimidating. It's just a form, and we'll do the rest. right? Other chapters, not necessarily. And I've actually at the Alumni Leadership Conference last year, I got up there and spoke about marketing, especially to young alumni, trying to convince everyone, hey, put a button on your website. Put a button, make it super easy. Not everyone has that button yet. We're still working on it, but everyone will have a contact us. Contact us. There's an email, usually of the president or maybe their marketing chair. Send an email. Hey, and this is actually what I did before I joined the board in Baltimore. Sent an email to the president, said, hi, I'm Hunter Davey, graduated 2019, would love to get involved in the Alumni Association. What do you say? And from there, the president at the time, Amanda Galadic, awesome person, welcomed me with open arms, helped me get set up, roles and responsibilities, and it really, it really is possible. Right? It's amazing the things that one email will do. So I'd say that's your best bet.
So Hunter, I believe you've been the president of the Baltimore chapter for almost 3 years now. Is that right?
Yep, about November 2020.
So you're becoming a veteran if you weren't already. You strike me as a guy who never stops learning. In the almost 3 years since you've been chapter president, what have you learned during that time? How are you different or better as a chapter president now than when you first started?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is a great question. I'd say one of the skills that I've learned the most in the last couple of years is to stop doing and start motivating. What I mean by that, when I first joined the chapter, I tried to do as much as I can. I set up happy hours. I set up sports teams. I set up events. Sent out 500 handwritten postcards my first month in Baltimore to try to get young alumni out to a happy hour and go and meet up and start forming this community. As I've matured in my role and we brought new people on board, me doing all those things does not help. Right? Because then when Hunter one day retires from the board or decides to get involved in the Alumni Association in a different way, then it just falls apart. Right? So what I've learned is that it's not all about me, right? It's not about the things that I can go do. It's about the things that I can go motivate others to do and enable them to learn. So as we get new board members, it's me stepping to the side and saying, hey, here's what we can do. Or what do you want to do, right? Working with each board member to establish their goals. What are your interests? And then me removing obstacles for them. So that's the biggest switch for me, right? It's hey, do now to, okay, let's see if we can motivate. Let's see if we can enable others. So when it's time for Hunter to pass the baton, there are folks who are capable and motivated and willing, and they're going to keep this ball rolling.
Yeah, that's so well said, Hunter. I've heard it said before that one of the best traits of leadership is developing leadership and surrounding yourself and creating leaders within your team. And so that was well said. Certainly wishing you all the best in Maryland. You are listening to the Football Letter Podcast. We are speaking with volunteer leader Hunter Davey. Hunter is the president of our Baltimore chapter. We will be going down to Maryland this fall as we do every other year, at least until the Big Ten just expanded this summer. They probably added a couple more teams by the time we jump off this podcast. And our World Tour event, the Friday night events hosted by the Maryland chapter, they are probably our largest away game events. If you've never been to Maryland for a Maryland Penn State game, it's the closest thing that you can get to feeling like a home game for Penn State. A lot of times the Blue Band is there. The Maryland chapter will have a huge contingent there. Hunter, by the way, is in graduate school at the University of Maryland getting his MBA. So, we'll give the Terps some dap here. Yeah, that's okay. We know you're a Penn Stater at heart. So just a couple more questions here for Hunter, and we appreciate your time. I mentioned the Young Alumni Ambassador program in the intro. It's a relatively newer program here at the Alumni Association. Wondering if you could share a little bit about your involvement with that, kind of what that opportunity meant for you, because I believe you got selected right after graduation or within the first year or so.
Yeah. So Young Alumni Ambassador program, fantastic program. If you are considering, if you're a current student or a recent grad and considering applying, I would say do it. It is a blast. You're connected with other folks who are also recent grads, and especially for me, right? It was the fall of 2020. Fall of 2019 for me, but that led into 2020. We were still meeting, throughout the beginnings of COVID there, and very helpful, right? It's other folks who are in the program who are interested in getting people involved, and especially young alumni sharing best practices, which was great. They also give you a budget, which you can spend. I don't want to speak for. I don't know how the program's changed in 2 or 3 years, but spend it essentially in any way that you think would be valuable to the Alumni Association and getting young alumni together. So it unlocks a little bit of creativity. You can be a little bit, I don't want to say less discerning, but you can be a little bit generous with where you go spend that money. If you think it's a good idea and it's going to go get young folks involved, you can go for it, right? My first event, the Penn State that I am, my first event was a happy hour. We put together a happy hour. We sent out postcards. We bought everyone's first drink, and that was something you could never do as an undergrad, right? And folks show up, right? And folks were able to network. And right after that, we paid for a kickball team, right? That was the Alumni Association funds for a kickball team, which I enjoyed very much, a little bit selfishly, right? I enjoyed it too. And it was getting young alumni together. So there's a lot of creative ways you can go and kind of spend this stipend. The goal of this, right, is to kickstart. It's not like they're going to give you 50 grand, 10 grand a year over the next. It's not how it works, right? It is a Kickstarter. Here's a little bit of cash. Here's a network where you can share best practices, pull your brains together, and see if you can optimize that cash that you have on hand to go and make this happen. And I think for Baltimore, that's really what helped, at least in my era of Penn State Baltimore, get this young alumni group off the ground.
So if you're part of a chapter and you're looking to get more young alumni involved, start a kickball team. That you could. There are worse options, is what we're saying here. A couple quick hit questions for you, Hunter. How often do you get back to campus? And when you are back, what's 1 or 2 things on the top of your to want list?
When you say to want list, how do you mean?
To want to do list. What's at the top of your to do list? That, visiting the creamery, going to the Nittany Lions shrine.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I mean, always get to the Lion Shrine, always get to the creamery. That's tough. I would say, all right, here it is. The thing that I always do when I'm at Penn State, when I go back, usually a football game, usually once or twice in the fall. After a game, I will always take a slow, meandering walk through campus. I will sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, if I'm not in a rush to get anywhere, I will meander along the same path I used to take with prospective and accepted students as a tour guide. And I won't walk backwards, right? Walking forwards. That's I'm an adult now, right? But walking through campus, just remembering all the fond memories and the buildings, the people, the memories that I had, and just really remembering my time at Penn State and taking some time to appreciate it. I feel like sometimes in undergrad, you're there and you're doing school and you're doing clubs and you've got your friends and you've got your activities and you're kind of running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Taking the time, take some deep breaths, walk through campus, and appreciate all that it is.
So we wanted to ask you one more question, Hunter. And by the way, that was so well said. We'll ask you one more question about Penn State, but we also wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you're doing in Baltimore professionally. So you're an account manager, food and beverage at Ecolab. Wondering, if you wanted to update alumni and kind of like what your role is there, what are your responsibilities and just kind of how you're moving your career forward professionally.
Yeah. So Ecolab, right? I joined Ecolab just over a year ago now in May of last year. And my role with them is I'm an account manager, right? So I go around to different food and beverage manufacturers. So think of giant manufacturing facilities. Think of I've got a couple of milk plants. I've got an ice cream factory. I've got a frozen food factory. So these different giant industrial factories. And when they clean in between production runs, they use our chemistry and I help them, right? So if they're not sure quite how to use it or they're having some microbe issues, anything like that, I'll go in, I'll give them advice. Sometimes I'll fix their equipment to help keep your food clean. Now with that, it's actually a lot of skills that I gained at Penn State. Number one, chemistry. I was a chemical engineer. Shout out chemical engineering department. So still using some chemistry there. But a lot of it was what I gained from Lion Ambassadors, right? Building relationships, networking. I've got to talk to everybody from, the janitor who might have seen something. Oh, why are there microbial issues? Well, Jenny threw a broom into the mixer, so maybe that's it. So things like that, as well as talking to everybody up to the plant manager, where you do need to be a little bit more polished, a little bit more concise. So a lot of the skills directly relatable, not all from my major, but that's where I'm at now. And my goal in this right now, I'm servicing some accounts as well as trying to win some new business. My goal is to kind of keep moving up the food chain there and kind of move into winning new business, doing more of the sales. That's exciting. I've got a business, working on a business degree, so maybe using a little bit of that, and then getting into management and kind of helping direct not just the day-to-day, but with that knowledge of boots on the ground, how can we go remove obstacles and make that easier for the other folks out here?
Yeah, as you alluded to, all the lessons that you learn in college, they don't all come in the classroom. Sometimes they come out in the field. Sometimes they come just talking with your buddies. And so it's, sounded certainly like, you got the full Penn State experience, which segues us into the question that we'll get you out on. Obviously, the alumni network has meant a lot to you. We've talked, about it a good bit here. Just wanted to kind of end on it in summary with, what has the Penn State Alumni Network meant to you?
Great question. What has it meant to me? All kind of going back to that theme of community, right? I was plopped in, picked out of Penn State, taken out of my comfort zone, right? Plopped in the middle of Baltimore. I don't know anyone in Baltimore. Who in the world goes and moves to Baltimore after graduation? I didn't know a single other soul until after I got there. To me, what the Penn State Network is being able to be dropped anywhere in the country and at times anywhere in the world, and knowing that there's somebody probably within a 1 mile radius and maybe thousands within a 1 mile radius that you share something in common with, someone that has shared an experience with you. So for me, it's just knowing, right? Wherever I go in the country, wherever I go in the world, there is somebody out there that I have something in common with. And more likely than not, they're going to be willing to have a conversation, willing to help me out, whether it's find a job, whether it's find a place to go eat, whatever it may be, there's somebody out there that is willing and eager to help you.
That is Hunter Davey, chapter president of our Baltimore chapter. If you're ever in Baltimore, around Baltimore, look him up, look up the chapter. It is psubaltimore.org. Hunter, we have enjoyed catching up with you so much. We wish you all the best, and thank you for stopping by the Football Letter podcast.
Thanks so much, John. Appreciate your time, and go State.